Hello, and welcome to the Red Hat APAC Hybrid Cloud Kopi Hour. It's great to be back. We've been away for a little while. I'll put our banner up. We've been away for a little while after we did our previous shows last year, so it's really exciting to get our new season started. So first, let me go ahead and introduce who we have here today. To begin with, there's myself. My name is August Simonelli. I'm a technical marketing manager here at Red Hat, and I'm based in Sydney. And today I'm joined by a Kopi Hour regular, Dev Shanbag. I'll go ahead and bring him up. Dev, go ahead and introduce yourself like you're brand new.
Hey everyone, Dave here, Dave Shanbag from the Red Hat Melbourne team. I'm part of services and based out of Melbourne and work with our ANZ folks. Glad to be here.
Awesome, Dev. It's good to see you. And now we have before I get into all this exciting stuff behind me, we have a special guest today for our show. This is Jitender Kohli. Jitender, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks, August. Hello, everyone. I'm Jitender Kohli. I'm part of Red Hat India. Uh, I'm a hardcore architect with specialization in hybrid cloud, containerization, automation. It's been 5 years I'm with Red Hat, and I'm part of Telecom Media and Entertainment Group here in India. That's where I work with all telecom operators in India, and I help them in their journey to modernization and digital transformation.
That's cool. That's right. So today, again, I just want to reintroduce us to the show. So this is the Kopi Hour, and again, Kopi is the coffee drink that you get in Singapore and Southeast Asia, and it ties us very much into APAC and for our show. And that also is partly what I have going on behind me, because the three of us, Dev and Jitender and myself, were lucky enough to attend a big internal event we had up in Singapore. Was it last week, guys?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
right. So I had an opportunity to, of course, meet up with everyone and actually see people face to face as the world is doing that again, which was wonderful. And I'll get people's reflections on that. But most exciting is I had a chance to go and find great copy when I was in Singapore. And when I did, I looked them up and I decided to go and see what I could find. And this one here, wherever it is, the 1950s coffee in the Chinatown food complex was the best. So I enjoyed it. One of my colleagues in Singapore even got me a Kopi cup. So we're definitely creating a definite brand here around our Kopi Hour. So I don't know, guys, if you had a chance to have a good copy or how you felt. You say a little bit about the event we had up there before we get on to the actual show.
That's pretty good. Where's my coffee mug, August? I thought you'd probably give me one.
Well, so the lady who gave it to us is head of our managed OpenShift black belts, Danielle. She gave me two. So maybe we're going to do a virtual cheers in the future when I get more of these.
I think that'd be
Maybe it
nice.
could be the gift or something. But yeah, no, it was really cool to be up there and to be back in Singapore.
I
Jitender, I
agree.
mean, I saw you as well. So
Yeah, exactly. And regarding that copy, August, uh, before I went to Singapore this time, I didn't know about what copy means. So when we discussed about this event, then I quickly just Googled what copy means. I got to know it is about coffee in Singapore. And the moment I landed, the first thing I tried was a copy there, and it was fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's good. And there's all these different types you can order, and you'll get you. I'm learning to get my favorite. Do you like condensed milk, evaporated milk? But anyway, it's very, very cool. All righty. So Harish, we've got chat going, and I'm still getting used to how to make that happen. So we got a nice comment on people loving my background. Thank you, Harish. All right, so let's actually get into the show and talk a bit about what you all came for here. Not a show about me talking about copy with people, and we're going to actually cover India's 5G story with Red Hat, which is really kind of an exciting topic to me. So to start off with, I was actually doing some research before the show and looking things up, and I was reading in the Wall Street Journal, Jitender, that a quote from the chief executive of Ericsson. So his name is it's Börje Ekholm, and he is
Yeah.
saying that India is beating out the U.S. and Europe in the rollout of 5G infrastructure. and he's calling it outside of China the fastest scaling country in the world, India. I mean, that is really cool. And so this is the head of Ericsson, right? The CEO of Ericsson. And according to him, the move is driven, again, I'm looking at my quote here, by soaring data traffic in the country. So operators in India are trying to meet that soaring demand with 5G promises. And I thought, oh, that's amazing. But, India is a big country. I looked that up. I have my stat here. It's the second most populated country in the world. And I think this year, India will become the most populated country in the world. And I thought,
Yes.
so what is the state of 5G in India? Surely it's everywhere, right? And that's not the case. So maybe that's where we can lead off is that 5G is actually, there was an auction recently, there was stuff happening. What is actually the state of 5G and telco in India? And so you are the man to tell us all about that.
Exactly, and I think that's how I have tailored some of the content, some of the insights, which I'll share with all of you. In short, 5G is not just a future; it has become a reality here in India. Now, most of us are using 5G now, and the adoption is happening at the large scale. So, as we proceed with this discussion, I'll show you what we intend to benefit from 5G, not only as a mobile consumer but as an enterprise, or some of the other use cases we'll discuss, and how India is doing things little differently.
Ah. And of course, how Red Hat is super involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe before we start, I have a question for you. When was the first time you used a mobile, August? A very tricky question.
When I first used a mobile, I think when I first came out to Australia, I remember I had one of those little Ericssons. I remember playing Snake on it. It was the kind of thing that would only turn on if I needed to use it, and then I would turn it off. Yeah, Dev, is it the same for you?
I think, yeah. So I think my first cell phone was a Nokia 3300 back in 2005. And again, it was, not a fancy screen. You could make calls, you could send text. Snake was quite popular,
Yeah.
unlike, the games that you get today. But one thing I would remember is back then, I think around 2000, making a call in India was 16 rupees per minute, which is,
Exactly.
according to today's estimates, is probably 30 cents a minute, which
Hmm.
was big.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question.
So
I also remember that my friends in the States, when I told them I was texting, they said, "Isn't that something kids do?" That's a memory I have of the early days. But anyway, yeah. So
So why I ask this question is, so what is your, what's the difference between experience you had with your mobile at that time and today?
yeah, it was very much an on-demand thing. Like I didn't leave it on. There were no apps. Yeah, it really was like Dev said, send a text, make an important call. I'll be late for dinner, trains running late kind of thing. Yeah.
One thing I
Exactly.
would remember is not getting out of the buildings just to make a call. Just you remember that you're doing that with your phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, so coverage was a big issue, I would say, unlike today.
Hmm.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, so that's the point, right? There was a time at the initial time, phone was only used for calling or maybe just for SMS. But fast forward today, when we see my phone is everything. In fact, it is a mini office for me. So whether it's my fitness app, my online shopping, social media, messaging, it is only single device, which is mobile phone, which is used, right? So see the transformation which is happening in the world of mobile, and definitely 5G will take this advancement to the unimaginable way, right? So and how India is going to benefit from these advancements, how India is doing, what is happening, how operators are doing in this space, or what are the government policies or the focus of government in this space, is something I thought I'll just quickly walk you through, and we'll keep this interactive discussion on, right?
Yeah.
So
I have an eye on the
yeah,
chat, so if people have questions, I'll try to manage that. I do have a question though, Jitender. I did some research. I prepared a little thing. Is this true? Are these the prime? There's basically 4 Indian telcos. Or are there lots of little ones? Would these 4? I mean, I've never been to India, Dev. I know you were just there. Are these who you interact with when you're there?
yeah.
So,
So yeah, please go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
so I'll just cover this. So the first three, Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, and Vodafone Idea, are the carriers. The last one, which is Adani Data Networks, basically they've purchased spectrum only for their ports. So they're not going to go in, telecommunications. They've just purchased spectrum for ports because they have about 16 ports across India that they're going to come with, and they want to, build this mesh so that they can have better communication within them.
Yeah. So you rightly said primarily, I would say there are now 4 players which exist, and see there was a time a decade back we had so many operators running here, but over a period of time all got either they closed their business or got consolidated. Now primarily we have 3 players: Reliance Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone Idea, but we have government-owned BSNL as well, while they have the smaller piece of overall subscriber base. But yes, BSNL is one of our key player here.
Okay, cool. All right, excellent. I was just curious. Okay, I'll take that
Yeah.
away.
So let me just quickly switch to some of the content. If you can just bring this my slide to the screen. One.
There we go. It should come
Yeah,
through.
exactly. Yeah. So now, before we talk about 5G, right? Means we have a mixed audience here. Probably it will be a good idea to just see how the journey have been so far. We have been hearing 2G, 3G, 4G quite often time. The people who are not well versed of the mobile, they say what this G means, right? So this G literally means the mobile generation, right? So whether we talk about the 2G, 3G, and 4G, uh, whether it is the cellular towers, what we see on top of the buildings, or the backend system, the core infrastructure, right, the OSS and BSS, all these machineries which makes your call happening, right, all this infrastructure is built on certain global standards, right, and that is commonly referred as the generation, the mobile generation. So far from we have reached to 5G, but we started our journey with 1G, and I'm talking about 1G was around 60s or 70s, right? That time when it was the first time wireless call which people experienced, and that time you won't believe people used to have a brick-sized, very bulky devices. They used for talking to each other, and communication was completely unencrypted. So if you have certain components with you, you could always hear what others are talking about. But the actual, the transformation in this mobile space happened when the 2G came, and I'm talking about somewhere around 90s. When 2G came into the existence, that is where the voice calls and text, got really into the dominance. But 2G, after some time, 2G also brought in GPRS based mobile internet, but the internet was very slow at that time. So 2G was all focused on the voice calls. That's it. With 3G, and from an India perspective, I'm talking about somewhere around year 2008 or so, when the 3G was launched. That is when the actual mobile broadband, means accessibility of internet on mobile phone, became a reality. Though the speed was not as good as what we see today, but 3G was far better than the 2G, right? And 4G really took up the notch. That's where the mobiles were not just limited to the voice calls, the high speed internet, watching movies, listening to songs, having applications, visual experience became the reality. Now fast forward, now the 5G, as you can see in this table, the 5G, the bar is set too high, because if you look at all other generation, they were focusing on a particular use case. For example, 2G focused on voice calls, 4G focused on the internet. 5G is a collection of all these, right? And it is not just about having a fast internet and calling, but 5G goes even beyond the boundaries, right? With 5G, 5G is designed to connect everyone with everything. That means it is not the mobile phones which gets benefit from it, but all machines, objects, your watches, and all these small objects also get connected with each other, right? And now when we talk about internet speed, it is not just having an internet, it is having a ultra high speed, somewhere around 100x of the speed of 4G, which you can experience with 5G. And what 4G didn't bring to you was the quality of experience, right? And the low latency. With 4G, the latency was always higher. So the voice clarity, security, reliability is something 5G brings to the table, right? So 5G is not only going to help uh, you as a mobile consumer, but it also helps. It also opens the door for various enterprise use cases as well. And why we really had to look at something sort of 5G, because of the evolving use cases and future expectations, right? So I've just correlated some of that use cases, right, which were not there a couple of years back, but now everybody talks about it. For example, you talk about V2V and V2P, right? Vehicle to infrastructure, autonomous cars, these sort of concepts. These use cases are only feasible when we have a network which really supports high throughput and very low latency, right? So a normal 3G or 4G may not suffice for this particular use cases. So all these use cases, what you see, some are throughput oriented, some require a very low latency, some require a very high reliability, security, and so on and so forth. And that's what's the bottleneck in 4G. And we really had to look at 5G sort of new network.
So
uh, for
if I might just ask a question,
yeah.
so you made that jump that you said is a big jump from 4 to 5G, and clearly, right, all this stuff suddenly needs to happen. Why is it just consumer demand that's making us take that big jump, or not kind of add a bit in at a time? Why is 5G having to solve so much at once? Is it what do we what's the market doing that's forcing that, or?
See, one point I want to clear. See, all these benefits which I am showing here, it doesn't happen overnight, right? 5G also, similar to all other generation, it is also a journey. It's not that you switch on your 5G and you have all the use cases and capabilities available to you. 5G itself is going through a lot of journey. For example, in the initial stages, the NSA, non-standalone architecture of 5G is implemented, which caters to only some of the use cases. But going forward, when operators launch the full-fledged SA architecture of 5G, which is a standalone end-to-end 5G architecture, that is when you will start experiencing all these use cases, right? And as I said, why we needed 5G? Because the requirements or the complex use cases required a reliable, high-speed, low-latency network to exist, right?
Right.
If I say 10 years back, uh, means did you think about the virtual reality, AR or VR, something of that sort? Probably not, right? Or maybe have you ever 5 to 10 years back, did you think that you'll be able to see high definition movie on your mobile phone,
Good point.
right? Maybe these use cases never existed, so there was no scope for 5G. But now even enterprises use cases are expecting something
Yeah.
transformative in the network space.
I think if I were to add to that, I think you're right, Jitender. I think it's the over-the-top players that have, kind of pushed that demand, and now telecoms are realizing that they need, higher bandwidth, ultra low latency, and all these things. And to Jitender points, right? Something like AR, VR, having high definition movies streamed on your mobile phone, enterprise use cases in manufacturing, in agriculture, and IoT, AI, all these things. They've kind of pushed that to have these services available to us.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah. And just to take that conversation ahead, let me share some. So we said 5G is super. It will bring a lot of features, but how do we quantify it, right? So what I have done is this is a 5G requirement triangle which has been defined by IMT. Now, see, that's here I am showing you the difference between a 4G and 5G network, and I'm trying to quantify it. So if you see the
Mhm.
difference from a speed standpoint, theoretically 4G can go up to 1 Gbps, right? But 5G is, can go up to 10 Gbps downlink, right? Oh, sorry, 10 Gbps uplink and 20 Gbps downlink we can talk about. One of the main benefit is the low latency, right? With 4G, you always had somewhere around 60 millisecond of latency in your communication. Latency is, the end-to-end response of the request what you get. But with 5G, this latency has been reduced to 1 millisecond, and that opens the door for use cases like AR and VR, right? Or remote surgery, right? Or uh, vehicle to vehicle communication or autonomous car. So think of a situation, you are driving a, means your car is going at 100 mile per hour speed, uh, and immediately it's a autonomous car, and really it identifies there is a pothole or there is someone crossing the road. It has to respond in some millisecond, you know time. Otherwise, if it wait for 10 or 20 millisecond, it will hit, right? So that's the use case. In 4G, that availability of network was somewhere around 99%, but 5G takes it, it's much more reliable. It's almost five nines of availability what it offers. From the device density, again, you think of use cases like IoT, right? Wherein the density really matters. Density is, how much devices or people you can, mobile phones you can accommodate in a particular location. 4G were capable to handle only 250 devices or people per square miles. But look at 5G, the level of density it can achieve. Somewhere around 1 to 2 million devices per miles. That's how it enables a door for a larger IoT and edge use cases as well. From a mobility standpoint, also, if you are sitting in a super train, right, bullet train, if it is going at the speed of 500 kilometer per hour, 5G, your call will not get disconnected. So these are some of the capabilities which have been defined by IMT. And again, this is a journey uh, which has already started. It's not that you switch on the 5G and you get 1 millisecond, but yes, ultimately, theoretically, 5G can go up to 1 millisecond. So
Jitendra,
that's a paradigm shift I
sorry to
wanted to show.
interrupt you. We have a question on the chat here. You mentioned something IMT, so we just need, what does that abbreviation mean?
International Mobile Telecommunication. So this defines the the standards, the specifications, the use cases for 5G. Right? And this is the requirement triangle. So what IMT has defined, all these use cases, what we saw in the previous screen. So we divided these use cases into three pieces. The top one pertains to the EMBB, enhanced mobile broadband. Then the lower one, the URLLC, ultra low reliable, ultra reliable low latency communication, and an MTC. So all the various use cases will group in either of these, and 5G intends to offer or bring some capabilities around it, and use case will keep on adding. That's what IMT focuses on. So that's what I wanted to show you from a how the paradigm shift will happen when we really get into 100% 5G environment. Now, uh, yeah, so we have spoken about 5G. Now let me get into the actual, the domain of today's conversation. How India is, set to get benefit from the 5G, and what is happening in India for this, right? First, I want to share some of the facts about Indian telecom sector, right? I think August already mentioned some part of it, but India is the fifth largest economy in the world, right? So I guess it is the US, China, Japan, and Germany, I guess, yeah. So they are ahead of it. So we are the fifth largest economy in the world with a goal of 5 trillion economy. And that's a goal what we have set for ourselves in next couple of years, right? Uh, Now, when we talk about India, we talk about scale. So we are the second mobile market after China, and we are the second highest number of, you know, we are the country with highest number of internet users. Imagine we have, I have taken some this data, means somewhere around 900 million as on day is what we have the internet users in India. And look at the subscriber base. Uh, as I said, we are the second largest mobile market. Our subscriber base in totality is somewhere around 1.1 billion. I'm not talking about million. I'm talking billion, right?
I was gonna say
We are a
the way
country
you've
with
written
one.
that number, yeah, you really have to take that in. 1,140 million. Wow.
Goosebumps.
Yes. So we are a country with 1.4 billion population, and when I showed this data, 1.4 billion, and it keeps on increasing as we are talking. So almost everybody in India, right, has a phone, right? But the of course the unique subscribers is somewhere around a little less than a billion, but in totality, yes, that's what. And see, if we talk about the subscriber base across the world, it is 5.3 billion. So
Mm.
imagine one fourth of global population, mobile population, is there in India, and
Yeah.
that's a scale I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's a
And
massive adoption, right? I mean, so it's just a way of
exactly.
life there. I know it is everywhere, but I mean, you're talking basically everyone. The rest are just babies, right? They don't have phones, so maybe they do.
Correct. And because your phone has become, part of your body, that's how I put it. uh, for
Yeah.
anything and everything, you need a phone, right? And not only phone with a good internet connectivity.
Yeah.
So even if you see the data consumption, right? In the past, it has gone really, up. Approximately 11 GB per user per month is the data consumption what we have here in India, right? And specifically, if I talk about, and I think that was a point you mentioned, August, earlier, the top operators. The biggest operator here in India is the Reliance Jio, followed by Airtel and then Vodafone Idea. And we have a government on BSNL, which also exists. So four top players is making telecommunication reality in India. If I talk about 5G, where do we stand in terms of 5G, right? So August 22, just 5 months back, there was an auction by Department of Telecommunication which happened. Then the formally it was inaugurated in IMC India Mobile Congress event in October, right? So 5G is comparatively new in India as compared to some of the other countries, but now the rate of adoption, the rollout is happening at a pace that we will go beyond anyone else, right? And in from November onwards, yes, the selective uh, customers of these operators started to get 5G connected connection, and we estimate that by 2025, 400 million people will be 5G enabled here in India. So these are some of the fast facts about Indian telecom sector, right? I hope uh, you know uh, it gives a good information about where do we stand, right? And you will be amazed to see the scale what we manage. But scale also comes with a lot of complexities, especially when we talk about uh, do we have challenges in our telecom sector? Yes, we are also not insulated by any challenges, right? We also, even the challenges what we face may not be faced by others, right? Let me just call out some of them. While the subscriber base is going in billions, right? But if you look at this sector, ARPU, which stands for average revenue per user, right? That's how you measure the revenue of all these telecom operators. In India, it is just close to somewhere around $2.4, right? It's too less, right? Because ARPU is the one which really determines the ability of an operator to meet its expenses, uh, ability to launch new services. It's a overall the strength of that operator is shown by the ARPU. If I compare this with the other some of the geographies, for example, uh, Canada, I captured some of the data points, right? In Canada, the average ARPU is $57, right? Even in your Australia, it is $42, and US is all $32. And look
And
at
you're saying in India it's $2.40.
yeah, $2.4, yeah, which
Wow.
is close to
Okay.
150 rupees or so in India, 170 80 rupees.
Just to
That's
put
too
that
low, right?
just to put that into context, if you think about it, at a price of a coffee in Australia, you could get 1 month of subscription to a telecom operator with, I think, 1 GB per day limits.
Right.
Exactly.
So this is a real challenge, is what you're saying. Is it's very hard for them to monetize their users.
And yeah, and I give you a comparison, right? You look at Australia, $42,
Yeah.
manifold. Canada, $57, and US is all, $32. These are the stats which I captured. So because the lower the ARPU, of course, when operators do not have money to spend,
Mm.
that's where their ability to roll out new services and innovation, brings to a halt. And even look at the average cost of 1 GB data, right? Again, this is $0.09 is on an average what you get in India. So again, this also data points I captured. In US, similar amount of data, 1 GB of data is cost you around $8, right? In Canada, it is $12, and maybe South Korea $10. So see, the difference where do we stand, and how do we differentiate? So these are the challenges what our telecom sector and operator is going through, but still we are thriving, we are growing, we are rolling out our innovative solutions all across.
I have a question here.
Even yeah,
So, I mean, you shared some, big numbers out there, in terms of, the volume and the size and the cost. Now, you have a massive subscriber base and the cost is really low. So, how are the telecom operators kind of dealing with this? And, how is Red Hat kind of helping them bridge this issue of gap?
yeah, definitely. So first, I wanted to bring some of the facts and challenges, and then we'll probably speak about how the government is doing, what
Very
government is doing about it, what are the opportunities for Red Hat, how we are collaborating with operators. But yes, challenge exists, but opportunity also exists for us. Given the scale what we have here in India.
And
Yeah.
sorry,
It
Jitender.
is
So
commonly
basically, this is the lowest, one of the lowest ARPU numbers probably of most first world nations, right? I mean, this is brutal. Is that just coming
exactly.
from the size of the country, or is it the infrastructure, or
India is very highly competitive and price sensitive market, right?
huh?
So you just increase your monthly plan a little bit, and user have a option to switch to the other players, right? Especially after Reliance Jio coming into the in this space, the the affordability has really
Yeah.
come down. Yeah,
We got some
and
some interesting replies to that from in the chat. Right, economy of volumes is the mantra here in India, and
like that.
Abhishek says market of scale. Right, it's interesting. Wow, yeah.
and while ARPU and data per GB is low, right? But the
Mm,
cost of spectrum, right? The license fee what government charges to the operator is one of the most expensive in the world.
right.
That's add to these constraints, right? But we deal with all these areas. So I just wanted to bring these facts to the table. Before I thought it'll be interesting for you to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah. You can remove that slide from the same. And it is, August, it is commonly said that what works in India doesn't work outside, and what works outside may not work in India. So this is a true example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And I know, and Devil experienced this as well. When we at Red Hat are working with customers across APAC, yeah, they obviously are different. And this helps me to understand why some of the requests we get from India often come. They're very keen to get to squeeze the most out of everything, right? Because they're operating at these margins. Every little bit counts. Every little amount matters, and so you can see why those kinds of requests are so frequent and so important to that market.
Yeah, I think frugality is something that kind of comes to mind when I think about all the numbers that Jitender shared and some of the insights. I guess the high cost and still trying to make a buck really makes you think where you could save, where is a potential opportunity for us to make business out of, which is coming through what Jitendra is trying to say. So
Yeah. So are they having to raise prices? Is 5G more going to be more expensive? I mean, the rollout's super fast, right? It's you telling me that they were auctioning off the spectrum and selling the licenses and such for 5G, and that it's rolled out. You have it now. Like, is your phone right now? Is it 5G? Is it happening, or are we just at the beginning? So are they going to have to charge more to make up these differences, or?
So honestly, my operator has not started charging me yet, but soon they will. Of course, 5G will be costlier than my existing, the 4G plan, but it will not be multifold, right? As I said, we are a very price sensitive, highly competitive market, right?
Yeah.
So if one operator is charging a little more, I always have an option to, port my number to other operator. It is just I have to just send an SMS and my request will be lost to port me to another operator. That's as simple as this.
Right.
But yes, as 5G use cases will keep on increasing, definitely it will cost more, but not to a very larger extent. That's what I'm hoping. But I have to see the bill of my operator before saying it will be too much or too less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I know when they're switching on 5G here, it kind of just got added to the plan, and I guess they build it. I don't know, Dev, are they building the price in here or the cost? Because ultimately, it kind of just happened, and our local providers are saying, "Oh no, now you have 5G." And I noticed, yeah, suddenly I'm on Vodafone. Suddenly it switched over, and I now get 5G, but I didn't see a rise in prices. But India's kind of in that unique spot where because they're operating at those margins, it sounds like they'll have to. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
Okay. So sorry, August. I got a little bit jitter in your voice in between. If you have asked any question.
No problem. Just that they'll have to. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes with 5G, and if with that unique position of having this very competitive market, um, needing needing the service and at such size, it's going to be interesting to see what they wind up doing. If it's going to cost more, and how they implement can help them reduce those costs.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. With all this pressure, as I already mentioned, that our industry is still thriving, right? ARPU. If we look at the range of ARPU in last few months or year, it has gradually started to improve. And with 5G, as I said, new use cases will come. Then definitely will come out of all this revenue specific challenges. So
Mm.
now I really want to talk about, so we have spoken about 5G as in technology. We've spoken about some of the fast facts about how we as in India is placed in this domain. We also spoken about some of the challenges. I really want to touch upon what are the use cases I see personally are the key use cases for 5G in India, and I'm sure this will be applicable to other countries as well. But I'm since just talking from an India standpoint, and uh, so out of so 5G in my view will have hundreds of use cases, but immediate applicable use cases I see, for example, the education sector. Definitely, this sector is going to get a big boost with 5G, right? And one of the fact I want to share with you, approximately 65 to 70% of Indian population lives in the rural areas, right? So uplifting, upskilling that rural area is very important. That's how we bring both urban and rural areas into the parity. Now with 5G, when there is a good connectivity, jitterless, fluent connectivity available in the rural areas or the remote areas, education sector will get benefit, right? Because in India, the availability of good teachers in the remote area is always a challenging aspect, right? There is always a scarcity of teachers. Now, with once I have a good connectivity in my rural areas, a teacher, think of a situation where teacher is sitting at a central university and delivering a good content, the education content or a training to the people who are sitting in the rural areas, right? So that sort of use cases I really see happening with 5G. It is feasible with 4G as well, but with 4G, as I said, the latency is too high. Throughput is there is always a limitation. 5G will get over all these challenges, so there will be a very seamless experience, education experience. You with 5G. That's how I see it.
Mm.
So education was one. Agriculture, definitely it is going to get boosted. As I said, we are still a agriculture driven economy. uh, Most of the GDP still comes from the agriculture side. Now, though I am exaggerating, but think of a situation where uh, the farmers using the 5G technology uh, can get some metrics about the environment, right? That's how they can utilize the water resources and the other uh, resources. Uh, Probably moving forward, the drone can be used to spray the fertilizers right across this. So this will not happen on day zero, but certainly agriculture sector will be impacted by 5G, right? Maybe we can think of using some small sensors in the field, which really identifies the need of a water, and you know these sort of use cases. Though
Yeah.
it is little futuristic, but that will definitely be the reality in shorter period of time.
Yeah. And as you said, with agriculture being so key, with the space and the sizes you have there, it's a perfect fit. And I suppose things will ramp up over time and make it more profitable and that kind of thing. And so it really is setting yourselves up for real success.
Exactly. Yeah. Other use cases I see, for example, the healthcare. Definitely, healthcare all across the world will be boosted with 5G. Right. Today, again, like the teacher example, I said always there is a scarcity of doctors in the remote areas, especially the rural areas. Now, in the COVID time, we have seen this, right? How the remote consultation became a reality, right? Where person or a patient do not have to really travel all across the long distance and reach out to the hospital or a doctor. That a seamless doctor and patient interaction can happen over internet, right, on your mobile phones. So definitely healthcare will be boosted, and remote surgery, right? A lot of I keep hearing a lot of reports and a lot of testing results, right? A doctor sitting at a central location, a specialist sitting at a central location can do a treatment to the remote patient. Definitely, that's the key use case. What I think 5G will make to the existence.
All of these.
Another one, yeah,
I was just listening to you, Jitender, and just a thought crossed my mind. All of this makes so much sense, and it fits perfectly in the realm of India because you have 1.4 billion people, and the ratio of teachers to students or the ratio of doctors to patients is so high, and with this, it's going to bridge that gap. So it just raises goosebumps. So which is really interesting, right? I mean, there's complete transformation that you see that you are experiencing, you are hearing on the field.
yeah, true. Dev, I completely go with you. These are, and these use cases are limitless. Uh, One of the other classic example, if I if you just allow me to share about the manufacturing, right? Today we are talking about the industry 4.0. uh, these days if you look at any smart manufacturing unit, everything is sensor and intelligent driven, right? There are thousands of sensors which are aggregating all together, feeding to the robotic arms, and all the manufacturing is happening in that way. Conventionally, all this communication between these robotics, they were all required a fiber communication, right? But fiber is all about physical connectivity. That is always a bottleneck, and 4G was not able to fill that gap because 4G based wireless was not there. uh, Now with 5G, so as it gives you a high throughput and low latency, all these robotic arms, the sensors, all these use cases becomes reality. So manufacturing also, I keep hearing from the field that it is going to get benefit a lot from technology like private 5G, where 5G setup is there in your environment specifically for your consumption, right? It will definitely replace the fiber altogether.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. That's for sure. I do want to just bring up one point that Abhishek Shukla mentioned. I'll put it on the screen, but mentioning that with 5G, new ecosystem players will kind of come in, and so that actually, and we do want to talk a little bit about where Red Hat plays a role in here. But real quickly, comment on that, Jitender and Dev. Like this will, we talked about the four main people, the four main groups doing this, forming telcos. Will there be more that kind of come in with the to support those asks? And will we see a lot of virtual telcos sitting on the back of these, that kind of stuff? Where does it go from here for India as far as that the provider side of it?
Correct. See, if uh, my take on this is, see, till this point, or if you talk about just a couple of years back, telecom operator had very limited options in terms of who offers the solutions to them, right? uh, Only two or three, I won't name, but two or three players were there to support them, right? Whether it is a RAN or the core, or the other segment of telecom I talk about. But now, all there are so many ISVs and small emerging solution providers have started to bring their solutions to the table. That's how it is becoming a more multi-vendor environment. And
Hmm.
the more competition you have, the more innovation definitely will come, and the TCO will definitely come down, because it has become more competitive now, and there is always a more scope of the innovation. So you see the players like the Mavenir, or the other players of the world, right? They are really taking a big space into the telecom operators domain.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, it certainly brings out a lot of new use cases and markets that did not exist before. The other thing I wanted to also point out was, I think, um, the government initiatives and what is happening with these kind of technologies kind of going hand in hand. Jitender mentioned manufacturing, so there is a Make in India campaign that the government is running, and this smart manufacturing coming into place, that kind of put together all the synergies to bring that and uplift it. So that's another thing that I was kind of thinking about. One thing that is quite peculiar, in what you and Jitendra were saying, was that if you look at how India is doing it, and this is just my observation, I think India will show us, how it's done efficiently with a lot less. So think about all the other innovations, right? I mean, you could have a prosthetic somewhere outside of India, probably 10,000 plus, but in India it's less than probably $1,000, right?
Yeah.
Think about all the numbers that Jitender shared. Here we have subscriptions that go $60 plus, whereas in India you could still get 5G in sub, like $5. So that kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true, and I can see how that's coming together. Especially someone I've not been there and don't know a lot about it. It's really interesting to see how that's coming together. Very, very exciting, the potential there.
Yeah, good. You touched upon that point, Dave. You just mentioned about one of the government initiative like Make in India, right? Uh, so here I want to talk about some of the initiatives, how government is focusing, right, or how government is helping. See, one point is clear, as I earlier mentioned, that we are targeting to become a $5 trillion economy in next couple of years, right? How do we reach there, right? We definitely have to advance ourselves in the space of technology, right? And when it is about technology transformation, 5G is one of a core pillar moving ahead. So government, Indian governments, and all the operators here have a specific focus on 5G. Some of the government policies which are really fueling this transformation, for example, the PLI, right? performance link incentive, right? It is not only telecom specific, but it is applicable to telecom. So now these days, Indian government is really incentivizing the people or the uh, uh, manufacturers who manufacture their devices, their solutions in India, right? There is a lot of rebates and facilities which have been given to them. So PLI, due to this PLI, Make in India, and there is one more initiative, Atmanirbhar Bharat, that means self-reliant India, right? So that all equipments or all solutions what we need for 5G are manufactured here in India. All these are really helping, right, in terms of the employment, right? Because the more manufacturing happens locally in India, it will boost the employment, right? Uh, uh, you might have heard of Nokia, Ericsson, Cisco, all these players announcing that they are setting up their manufacturing units here in India, right? So it is boosting overall not only the employment side of it, but the revenue and every aspect of 5G. Right?
Yeah.
Jitendra, I
Uh,
do have a question, just listening to you, and you are our expert on, in the field out there in India. You would have all, you would deal with a lot of telcos, operators, a lot of vendors, some of them you mentioned. How is Red Hat helping kind of, take it from, where organizations are today to, the organizations of the future? How are we kind of helping them out?
Exactly. You're spot on. After this, after talking about these government initiatives and focus, I really the next topic was how Red Hat, because how Red Hat is going to see this. But all in all, till this point, I wanted to convey a message that government is focused. Government is really supporting the operators in every manner they can, because 5G, making 5G reality is in interest of our overall social and economic development here in India.
Yeah.
Now, August, if you can just let us talk about what is Red Hat's role here. If you can bring my slide back to the screen,
Yeah, you
it's
bet.
possible. Yeah. So yeah. So now, what is Red Hat's role in this overall revolution, right? Uh, Again, we are a trusted advisor, and almost not only in India but across the globe, every telecom see Red Hat as their preferred solution partner. Here, what you see is the key domains of a telecom, right? From the very left side, there's the radio access network. These are the big cell towers, what you see on top of the buildings, and that's where your mobile phone gets connected for the first. But some of the other domains like transport network and the mobile core network. Mobile core is which is the brain of the telco part. And then there are some very essential domains and units like OSS and BSS, right? This collectively makes telephony to happen, right? Now, if you look at any telecom operator, not only in India but across the globe, transformation is happening at each and every unit here, right? So today when we interact with our Indian operators, every spot, whether it is IT side of it or the network side or the RAN side, transformation is happening all across. So new evolutions like Open RAN, which really disaggregates the how you set up the RAN side of your network, right? The splitting of functions into multiple small services. Network function virtualization has really, this was one of our transformation which really changed the shape of how network functions, the network applications gets deployed, right? It really virtualizes your the network function and gives you an ability to deploy in a virtualized or a containerized manner. CUPS architecture, transitioning to CNF. Now, VM also and has become a past. The latest trend is all deploying telco applications in containers, microservices, end-to-end automation. So these are the transformation areas what we hear from our each and every operator, because innovation is the mandate for telecoms, right? We talked about so many challenges. The only way that telecom can thrive is by innovating themselves, right? And they have to transform on all these sections. How do Red Hat play a role in this, right? Number one, uh, no one understand the telco better than us. We significantly contribute to ORAN, all these communities, the global communities which are fueling the innovation in the telco space, right? We we feed our intelligence there, we learn from them, right? And then we bring the community driven, the best of the solutions to the table. So if you look at the Indian operators, what we have done all across all the operators in India, we have established a common horizontal telco cloud, right? Horizontal, I mean a telco cloud based on OpenStack and moving forward OpenShift, which is not tuned for a particular workload, right? So that you lay a common fabric all across different units, and no matter which application you want to bring on top of it, it caters to the need, right? So common horizontal cloud, then the automation at every unit. Again, this red line denotes that same Red Hat solution can lay across all the units, whether we talk about RAN, the core, or the IT side on OSS BSS side of it, right? The common so so operators do not have to build a different skill sets. The standardization is what they get, higher level of automation they get, right? So with all these technologies, we are really helping modernize the overall environment of our operators, right? Uh, the Some of the new solutions like ACM, right? There was a long time ask from our the operators here in India that they need a centralized way of observability, the visibility, right? Central way of carry out the zero touch provisioning of their cell sites or larger deployments. Red Hat has brought in these innovative solutions, which everybody, all the operators are so much excited about, right? So collection of all these solutions and services, and this being based on open source, really gives an operator to not lock down themselves to a particular vertical solutions. They are open, their choices are open, and of course, this is a very cost optimized solution what they get.
Yeah.
So this is a small summary of how Red Hat's role into this. Maybe you can also add what do you see in your region which correlates to this.
I think no different from what you mentioned, Jitender. I think having that common fabric helps the telecom operators kind of bring in new technologies and kind of have a great platform that provides for innovation, and again automation, not just to bridge the gap, because like you said, rolling out a particular technology across such a large geography becomes a challenge. And with automation you can have that done remotely and all those aspects, so that becomes really key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to show this. August, probably you can
Sure.
hide this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and what I really like about that, and I know we all work for Red Hat, but is that you've really explained the environment in India and how I love to see how our products actually are affecting that kind of real world stuff and being a part of that. And of course, yes, it's the same. It's all regions, but India is such a unique situation and such a huge potential, but a challenging potential. It's great to see that all relating to each other like that. So I find that really cool, and the fact that it's powering so much in the economy. And I wanted to share one piece of the chat that Piyush put up. It's quite funny, right? You would talk about who's going to use it, but look at that, right? So when you have these strong networks, and I know this is said a bit tongue in cheek, but yeah, it drives all different kinds of economies. When that strong, backbone is there, so that you can make things work. Who knows what comes from it, whether it be good or bad. The point is, this can go in so many ways, and of course, I'm super excited to be part of Red Hat for that. But just to hear about this from you guys on the ground and the front line is fascinating. It's really, really good. I feel like there's a whole nother hour we could go to really start applying how our technologies and our and software solutions specifically solve these different problems. We can't now, but I mean, it's another show right there. I thought that was really cool.
And
I
I would
agree.
say we have just begun, right? As I said, 5G is comparatively newly launched in India. Probably I hope that 1 year down the line, maybe next February, I'll sit with you in the same Kopi Hour, and I'll bring you the completely different dimensions of what we have achieved in last 1 year. So I'll sit with you maybe next after
Okay.
1 year.
Yeah, yeah. Dev and I will be waiting. I mean, I absolutely. I think this has been really, really insightful, and I really appreciate you putting together the presentation and helping letting us kind of work our way through it. That was really excellent. I'm very pleased.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think this was very insightful. I can't wait for, another year to pass by and, hear from you, what new that you've contributed and Red Hat has contributed to this growth.
Yeah. India and our work there is setting the benchmark, and I think it's something we need to watch closely. So we will maybe in less than a year. The speed things are moving there is impressive. So I think we all need to keep our eyes on that to understand where things are going. So, but that isn't for today. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I will remind everyone that you can find all the streaming shows across the Red Hat network. From our main shows to all these other ones at the Red Hat Live streaming calendar at that address. And with that, I'll close it up. I don't know if either of you wanted to say a final thing. I do want to say a big thank you to Jitender for joining us. Any final words?
I just want to say thanks, Jitender, for coming on and sharing so much insight, so much into, what's happening in his region. So thanks for coming on board and sharing that with us.
No, I thanks to both of you. See, I saw a couple of episodes of Kopi Hour in the past, and I always thought, will I be able to make to this show ever? So,
This was special.
thanks to both of you for this opportunity. And uh, you know, just as a just to conclude, we are the architects of Red Hat, and we are happy to sit with our customer partners, our internal Red Hatters, whosoever. We are happy to share our learnings. We want to learn from you and spread the word of knowledge with all of you. So feel free to reach out to us for anything we can contribute to.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
perfectly said. I couldn't end it any better. Thank you so much, guys. Jitender, Dev. We'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we will see you next time with more Kopi in the future for our next show. Thank you very much, and catch you next time.
Thank you everyone for joining this. Thanks, August, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.